As we all know, defending a country is not an easy task. Doing so requires great power, and with great power comes great responsibility. As soon as the naval warship is deployed from its port, its crew members on board must work constantly and ceaselessly to ensure the ship is operational and ready to provide naval support at all times on warships like destroyers. Naval sailors are required to be active for most hours of the day at some point. However, these sailors are relieved of their daily chores and given the chance to take a breather. What do these sailors do during their invaluable spare time? Let's find out how they let off some steam. Life at sea. It's a well-known fact that being a U.S. Navy sailor is not an easy occupation. It requires being isolated at sea for long periods and away from their loved ones. As part of their initial training, these sailors are made to understand the hazards that come with being a Navy sailor. While they're at sea, they can be exposed to bad weather, drowning, shipwrecks, and many other dangers aboard the ship. This part of their training helps them prepare and avoid such occupational hazards. Living on a warship is not as comfortable as you probably think. The living quarters aboard a vessel are usually small and leave little to no privacy for crew members. Generally, a sailor works for 4 hours and rests for 8 hours every day. In other cases, a sailor can work for more hours than usual depending on their department and responsibilities. An average sailor works for more than 40 hours every week at sea to ensure a sailor doesn't become super exhausted. While on duty, the U.S. Navy employs a rotation system whereby sailors can move from one department to another on deployment. This helps sailors to always be battle-ready at all times on a warship. Off time for most of these sailors. Their off time is not really an off time. They can use this opportunity to catch up on overdue tasks which they couldn't do during their work hours. Their off time is also a great period to perform basic chores such as laundry and cleaning their beds. On some days there could be a military task going on, like an at-sea replenishment or an aircraft coming in or leaving the flight deck at the end of it all. On such days when it comes down to how many hours a sailor gets in his free time, what should have been around 8 hours of rest becomes 3 hours at most. Sailors do not abide by the standard 40 hours a week that most government officials are subjected to for U.S. Navy sailors. Their work week is divided into 3 sections. Unlike Sundays being the start of their work week, Thursday, which is usually the day their ship is deployed, is their day 1, and their work cycle repeats itself until the day they return to port. That means crew members do not have weekends off, including Sundays, perhaps. This is why some sailors lose track of time, because a new day is almost the same as the previous. Over the years, the U.S. Navy has made several efforts to ensure its sailors can be somewhat comfortable while risking their lives at sea. This is why some aircraft carriers have Starbucks outlets, really in a work environment where alcohol is prohibited. What's the next best option other than a cup of hot steaming coffee to wash your tensions away? A popular way U.S. Navy sailors let off steam during their time at sea is through steel beach picnics. Pictures and beach picnic videos from this event have sparked envy even in the hearts of sailors and civilians on land during a steel beach picnic. The 5,000 sailors living and working aboard an aircraft carrier come out to the ship's deck to have a good time. Still, beach picnics haven't always been a means for sailors to have fun, though the naval tradition was conceived by the British Navy as all hands to bathe back in the day. British naval warships were made out of
wood, hence, there was little to no provision for sailors to maintain their hygiene. Hence, all hands to bathe was in order for crew members to bathe in an open sea. Now, with sufficient provision made on modern-day vessels, jumping into the ocean has become a fun activity for sailors. Even though it can be quite dangerous, the average aircraft carrier has its deck 60 feet above sea level to eliminate or reduce the possibility of these sailors sustaining injuries from diving into the sea. Aircraft carriers lower their hangar bay elevators to half that height. Therefore, they can jump off the ship at a height of 30 feet. Even as a form of training, these picnics not only help to boost the crew's morale, but also supply the sailors with some much-needed vitamin D. Some sailors are not allowed on the deck for months, so coming out to the Steel Beach picnic is the only time they can be under the sun. The deck, which is usually 4 to 5 acres of land, becomes small when everyone aboard the ship comes out to play and mingle. Various games such as card games, checkers, football, basketball, volleyball, and jump ropes are just a few of the activities enjoyed by the sailors on deck. Others settle for reading a book or sunbathing. And what's a picnic without food and drink? The head kitchen staff member decides which food is to be prepared on the deck. There are also coolers of ice-cold beer made available for those sailors to properly cool off. That is how Steel Beach picnics go on aircraft carriers. It is a bit different on submarines. The surface of a submarine is not only smaller in size in comparison to the deck of an aircraft carrier, but it's also curved. Hence, these dimensions leave sailors aboard a submarine with no other choice than to jump off the ship into the ocean after a long, relaxing swim in the water. They head back to the ship to enjoy a nice hot meal. Sailors could also use their breaks to play video games with their peers, get a tan or study for courses required for them to be promoted. Some sailors would bring their gaming consoles aboard during deployment so that they can play games like Warcraft and Dungeons and Dragons with their fellow sailors. They can also play these games with their loved ones back at home through the power of the internet. Other games like checkers, dominoes, chess, and card games are also frequently spotted with US sailors. Crew members could also use their off time to explore other hobbies of theirs. Sailors could enjoy writing, reading, other hobbies, singing and dancing as well. Sometime in the mid-1800s, an association known as the American Seamen's Friends Society was created. Their goal was to provide sailors with books and simultaneously boost the morale and social skills. Music has also proven to be a great way for crew members to pass time on ships. Some songs such as sea shanties help sailors while working during their off time. Sailors could gather round and sing songs or tell tales as a form of entertainment. Sailors who are musically inclined, unlike their peers, would grab various musical instruments on board the ship and dive into the world of folk soul music to keep things lively. Sailors who are more artistic than others often prefer painting and artwork or carving wooden parts of the vessel. Painters among the sailors would make use of whatever they could find on deck as their art resources. The outcomes of such creative processes depend on the skills of such sailors and how well they can manage the limited resources presented to them all. US Navy sailors are entitled to taking a leave. In total, a sailor earns 30 paid vacation days each year to go on leave. A crew member must complete what is known as a chit. Then this leave request form must be notarized by the next chain of command. All that's left is for the sailors' leave papers to be processed by the personnel department. In special occasions, crew members can borrow some days out of his not yet earned leave among sailors. This is known as going in the hole. It's not usually supported, but it still rarely happens. Sailors can also go on liberty calls during holidays and weekends. Crew members can spend a maximum of 72 hours based on the defined range of a vessel's local area. A sailor can explore and must be able to return to the ship if called the board. Immediately, some warships have set their local area to be a 50-mile range, while others can go as high as 400 miles.